So thank you everyone for joining us. It is a wonderful sunny day here in upstate New York, but I know that we have students joining us from literally all over the world today. And so good day, good evening, whatever is most appropriate for you. My name is Maggie Wolford. I am the Director of Graduate Recruitment and Admissions for the Thomas J. Watson School of Engineering and Applied Science at Binghamton University. I see we've got about 200 students logged in and participating with us today. So I'd like to first thank all of you for logging in and joining us. As you know, the purpose of this session is to try to give you an update regarding the fall 2020 semester here at Binghamton University. And we have specifically designed this session for international students. As we know, you guys will have a lot of questions about visa processes, things like that. So to get started, I just wanted to share with you the agenda for today's session. We're going to start with an introduction of our panelists and chat moderators. So I know I've already introduced myself, but I am joined by many wonderful colleagues from here at Binghamton University. Rather than having everybody unmute themselves and try to share that way, I'm just going to run through very quickly that we have Rebecca from our International Student and Scholar Service Office. We also have Karen Novello, who is from our Office of Graduate Recruitment. So for anyone who has some more general university-wide questions, she'll be able to help answer those. From the Watson School Dean's Office, we have Owusu Boche, who's one of our graduate recruiters, as well as Lisa Gallagher, Assistant Dean for Research and Graduate Studies, and Professor Jung-Young Cho, who is the Associate Dean for Research and Graduate Studies. They are going to be helping us with answering a lot of questions. And we also have departmental representatives. So we have Tracy Hookway from Biomedical Engineering. We have Professor Les Lander, as well as Madhu Govindaraju and Wei Mang from Computer Science. We have Vladimir from Electrical and Computer Engineering. We have Guowen Zhao from Material Science and Engineering. And then for our Department of System Science and Industrial Engineering, we have Department Chair Mohammed Kasabne, as well as System Science Graduate Director Hiroki Sayama, and two more staff helping us, Erin Hornbeck and Lindsay Bukta. And so I would like to take a moment to thank all of them for participating and helping us to answer questions today. I believe I got everybody, but if I missed you, I do apologize and hope that you will let us know. We're going to be doing a brief update regarding the COVID-19 situation at Binghamton University. And we're also going to be going through with all of you student participants some information from University President Harvey Stanger's draft plan for restarting Binghamton. Each of the departments is going to be doing a brief discussion of their plans for orientation, registration, and course offerings. And then, of course, as I mentioned, we have International Student and Scholar Services. So there will be a few points that are brought up at the beginning, some questions that we assumed many students are going to have, and then we're trying to leave lots of time for Q&A. So a few notes to all of you student participants. You may have noticed that you cannot unmute yourselves. This is a Zoom webinar, not a Zoom meeting. And so it is a slightly different format. And so you're not going to be able to turn off your cameras, but there will be an option at the end where we can unmute you and you can ask a question verbally if you'd like to do that. Basically, what we'll ask you to do is to raise your hand. It's one of the buttons that you'll see there, an option for you. And then I will manually unmute you, have you ask your question, and then put you back on mute as we continue forward. You will see as well that there is not a regular chat. There is a Q&A function. So I would ask you to please be sending your questions via the Q&A. We have multiple staff who are going to be helping to monitor that window and providing answers as we go. There is an option when someone is helping to answer the question where they will say answered live. And so if there's a question maybe that you're asking now that the staff know that we're going to be coming to in just a few minutes, in our presentation, then they're going to say answered live. And that way they can be focusing on some of the other questions that are coming in. I will also ask that when you're sending questions via the chat or at the end when you're doing it verbally, that you please identify if that question needs to go to someone specific. So if you're looking at, you have questions, say, regarding orientation, you would want to say, I have a question about computer science orientation, so that we know which department needs to be answering your question. The other thing I will note is that we will be sharing this PowerPoint after the session with everyone, just so you have it for your reference. We're also planning on sharing a recording of this webinar next week, because it will take a little bit of time for us to get it downloaded and cleaned and put online. So the final note would be that we strongly encourage you to share this information with your parents and family as you're making your final determination about how you're going to move forward with your graduate studies. I saw via the poll a moment ago that we have students from every academic department here at Binghamton's School of Engineering and Applied Science. That's wonderful. The majority that have attended today's session are computer science. That's great. And it also looks like there's still a lot of you that are undecided about how to move forward with your graduate studies. So I'm hoping that this session will answer a number of your questions and that we'll be able to help you through that. So without any further delay, let's get started. So the current situation of COVID-19 in the United States, and specifically New York State. I'm sure you guys have been hearing a lot about New York over the last couple of months. For years at Binghamton University, we've really sort of highlighted that we're only 3 hours away from New York City, and we talk about the great opportunities there. But the last several months, we've sort of been shifting that tone to talk about how we're a full 3 hours from New York City. You can see a picture there of Manhattan. You know, it's a very populous, it's very crowded. Binghamton University is in a place called Broome County. It's much more spread out, much more green. And so there is a bit less congestion. And so we've been able to keep the numbers here quite a bit lower. You can see their number of cases as well as deaths that have been experienced in New York City and Broome County. Within Broome County, the majority of cases have been at nursing homes and senior centers, which are just a very vulnerable population, as we all know now. To give a brief comparison, I looked at those who had registered for today's session, and there's a very large number of students coming from India. And so I thought that I would try to put this in a bit of context for those of you who are participating. The top table shows the New York counties, and you can see that Broome County, our number of cases, were very far down the list. These numbers were updated by our student assistants from the Watson Institute for Systems Excellence. And so you can see here some of the big cities there in India, and we have, you know, about a quarter of the cases in even a city like Jaipur. So we've done a lot of work as a university and as a community to keep the numbers down here. And so that has allowed us to reach a new phase in reopening. So in New York State, there are 4 phases of reopening, and you can see on the map there, we're part of what's called the Southern Tier. And so we are currently in phase 3. This was just reached last week on June 12th. And so we've got restaurants that are opening, food services opening. Really the last thing remaining here before returning to whatever this new normal is going to be are things like arts, entertainment, and recreation. So we can't go to the cinema, for example, right now, as well as education. So schools have not opened for in-person teaching, and we are anticipating reaching phase 4 very soon, but unfortunately we don't have a date for that as of yet, since we have just reached phase 3. But so you know, and you can see this information at the top of the slide, in order to move from one phase to another, you have to have a certain threshold about infection rate. The healthcare system has to have a certain level of capacity. There has to be a lot of testing being done, and there also has to be robust contact tracing. So these are things that have allowed us to start reopening, and a major piece of this have been efforts by Binghamton University to look after the wellness of faculty, staff, and students. So Binghamton University has made a number of resources available to students, faculty, and staff to help them stay healthy, not just physically, but also mentally. They've offered a lot of counseling services and resources available. There is a link here if you would like to check out our coronavirus frequently asked questions webpage, where they talk about some of these resources. To be quite frank, the list was too long for me to incorporate into this slide because they have made so many opportunities available. So I would encourage you to check that out. The other thing I will note is that New York State's Health Department has designated Binghamton University as a drive-through COVID testing site. So testing is available to anyone that fits the current testing criteria, which has actually been recently expanded to include all first responders, healthcare workers, and essential employees, even if they're not symptomatic. The testing is free and appointment only, and this has really helped us with getting up the number of tests available and the number of people who are taking those tests so that we're able to get a better sense of the situation as it is here. I will also note, you all are all probably aware, the spring classes here at Binghamton University were moved online, and we are beginning to return to the university as faculty and staff and preparing for the fall. And so a few guidelines that have been shared with us are that anyone in a Binghamton University building must wear a face covering or mask that covers both the nose and mouth at all times. Cleaning and disinfection of touch points in common and high traffic areas is being prioritized above all other tasks by our custodial staff, and hand sanitizer is being provided to all personnel on campus as well as some masks, and there are refill stations being installed across campus. So we're all being given like a small bottle of hand sanitizer for our personal use, and then we're able to take that to be refilled once these refill stations are installed. So I share all of this. I know, the majority of this is wanting to get an update about fall and mode of instruction and all of that. And we are coming to that, I promise. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update about what's going on at Binghamton University and what the situation looks like here, especially with regard to this virus, because I know your families, there's a lot of worry about, is it safe? And so I want to let you know that Binghamton University is doing everything that we can to ensure that our students are going to be safe when they come back to campus and that the faculty and staff are taking care of themselves as well. So with that, let's talk about what fall 2020 is going to look like here at Binghamton University. So to start, mode of instruction. All Watson graduate programs will be offering first semester courses in person and online for the fall. So for those of you who indicated in the poll a moment ago that you're hoping to enroll on campus, that is an option for you, of course, pending receipt of the I-20 and the visa and being able to go through that process. But for those of you who are in places where consulates are not open or the earliest visa appointment isn't going to be until October, or in some cases early next year, this online offering is available. Instructors will make arrangements for students who are living remotely and taking those classes online. All of the courses that were scheduled for the fall 2020 semester are going to be offered at the same days and times of the week. And especially in the School of Engineering and Applied Science, we are very aware of the large percentage of international students that enroll in these programs. So as we're finalizing those schedule details, this is something that we are mindful of, whether that means recording classes or offering them at times that would accommodate international schedules. If you are able to come to campus, you should know, as I mentioned a moment ago, that students and instructors in all of the classrooms will be spaced out and that you must wear a face covering at all times. I already talked about how there will be personal disinfectant made available. And so just so you know, that is there for you. So that's a brief update about the mode of instruction. And I would like to let you know that if you go to the university website, there is currently a draft update, which is the recent statement from our university president, Harvey Stanger, that was sent out on Monday, June 15th. I just want to note that that is a draft. but they are hoping to get that finalized in the coming weeks. And once it is finalized, we will be sharing it with you over email. But I wanted to let you know that in a lot of ways, Watson is very on top of this. We are a bit ahead of the curve in that I think we've been thinking about this, given our large international student population, for the last several weeks and months. And so they've already talked about, as I say here, all of the first semester courses being offered in person and online for the fall. A brief update regarding orientations. So for the graduate school, that orientation is going to be held online on Monday, August 24th. You will receive an email invitation at your binghamton.edu email address. So for those of you who have already been admitted and paid your deposit, you should have access to what's called your PODS account and your binghamton.edu email address. That's really an account that you should be checking very regularly, as official university updates, especially with regard to orientation and registration, will be coming to your account there. So please keep an eye out on that. The International Student and Scholar Services Office is still finalizing information about their orientation. And again, this information will be sent to your @binghamton.edu email address in the near future. So keep an eye out. And finally, the departmental orientations, as well as registration process, are going to be talked about by our department representatives very shortly. So I'm going to ask you to just be patient with us on that, and we will come to that in a moment. With regard to the semester schedule, we've got a lot of students who have emailed with questions about when will the semester start, when will it end, how is this going to work. So currently, as originally scheduled, the first day of classes will be Wednesday, August 26th. Normally, there are days where you would have breaks, fall break, Labor Day, other holidays here in America. But this year, traditionally observed days without classes are going to be suspended. The idea is to try to keep students in the classroom as much as possible to ensure that they can get through all of the instruction, because after Thanksgiving, which is in November, classes will be held exclusively online from November 30th to December 7th. And the last day of classes will be Monday, December 7th, with then there being time to submit final projects, final exams, anything you might be doing with that. So I know that that is information that's been mentioned very quickly. And if you have follow-up questions, again, please send them via the Q&A, and we are happy to answer those. A couple of other quick points that I just want to make sure that I mention here. The deferment process. We've had a lot of students, and I saw in the poll, some of you have already looked at deferring to either spring or fall of 2021. So I want to make sure that you know, as someone who's applied for fall 2020, if you have already been admitted and you defer your admission, you are guaranteed that admission. Whether you move it to spring or fall 2021, either is fine. You just need to email either myself or the department to request approval of that deferment, and then we will process it. For those of you who have not completed your application or who haven't received a decision on your application, you also have the option to defer the application, but you will be going through the regular review process in that upcoming semester. It's not as if by deferring, you're guaranteed admission. So I just want to make sure that's clear. If you've already been admitted, you are guaranteed to hold that admission when your application is deferred. But if you have not yet completed the application or been admitted, then when you defer, it's really just that you're moving everything over and the application will still be reviewed as normal. One other thing I want to mention about the deferment process would be that for those of you who have already paid your admission deposit, the deposit will go with your application. We're not going to ask you to pay that again. And so you know that is there. A final note before I talk about cost would be that students, this is sort of a continuation of things that the university is doing to try to keep students safe, especially as you're looking at that semester schedule and we're talking about some of these deferment options. I want to make sure that you know that students are being directed for the fall semester not to travel outside of Broome County. They will also be directed not to gather in groups of more than 10. Failure to meet these directives, of course, would endanger our ability to maintain the integrity and operation of our university during the fall semester. And so we're developing a comprehensive set of rules, which will be shared with you ahead of time to keep yourself and others safe and healthy. And this will include a condition of attendance that you will have to sign. So basically, if you're coming in for fall 2020, there will be a document that you will have to sign that says, I agree not to gather in groups of more than 10, and I agree not to travel outside of the area during the semester, things like that. So I just wanted to let you know, again, this is all stuff that's going to come over your binghamton.edu email address, but that will help ensure that everything is in good standing. We've also received a lot of questions about cost. What is the tuition rate going to be? How much is the semester going to cost me? Is it different if I'm online versus in person? And so I just want to make sure you know that the tuition rates are still being determined by SUNY. And this is normal. Every year we get these rates usually in mid-July. And so unfortunately, we just don't have the rates yet for 2020-2021 academic year. But a good point of reference would be this is the annual tuition and fees for international students for this academic year, 2019 to 2020. So you can see here the tuition and fees, health insurance and services, living cost for those of you who are looking at physically coming to campus. And of course, there are these other expenses related to going through SEVIS and actually securing your visa. I just want to make sure that I am very clear about this. The cost of online classes is still being determined by SUNY, as well as the in-person tuition. And so once this is finalized, we will be keeping information updated on our website, and I would encourage you to certainly check that out. But I will also just mention that this is going to be something that we're hoping to send out over email once it is finalized, just so that you guys have the information for your reference. So a little bit longer than I had originally anticipated, but that's sort of the basic overview update about COVID-19 here at Binghamton University, as well as sort of our plans for moving forward for the fall 2020 semester as of this moment. And so I would now invite the departments to come on and to share some of their information. Specifically, has the department scheduled an orientation, and is it going to be offered online? How will the department have new students register for courses? So is this something that will happen as part of orientation, after, or are students expected to do it beforehand? And what courses are going to be available to students who are taking courses online? So with that, if I could ask Tracy to come on and speak for biomedical engineering.
Thanks, Maggie. So I'm Tracy Hookway. I'm an assistant professor in the biomedical engineering department, and I'm the representative today, giving you a little bit of information on where we stand. So I guess I will go through and answer the three questions highlighted. So in terms of an orientation for the department, this is absolutely something we are planning to do, but it is actually still being scheduled. So the department will reach out to each one of you with more details once that's confirmed, and hopefully that will be shortly in the coming weeks. And in terms of registration, so for new students to register for courses, you will also get guidance from the department with more information on that when you hear about when the orientation is going to be as well. So we are working diligently to try to get this information together, and we will get it to you very shortly. So unfortunately, I don't have a specific date for you today, but expect further guidance from the department coming very soon. Mm-hmm. In regards to the courses that are available to students this fall, so as was mentioned, all of the courses that are scheduled for, or were originally scheduled for the fall, are going to be scheduled this fall as well, at the same day and time that they should be scheduled, and you can take them online, and some of them will be offered in person as well. Which courses you should be taking very much depends on which degree you're coming here to receive. So if you are looking to get a master's degree, we have two options in the biomedical engineering department: the master's project or the master's thesis. And with both of these, you need 12 credits of the core courses, and with the project, you need 15 elective credits as well, and then 3 project credits. And what I want to point out for this is for the master's project. This is a project that only needs to be examined by your PI. So whether you are remote or you're on campus, you are still going to need to identify a professor that you'll be working with. And so you want to be thinking about who that might be, again, depending on whether you'll be here on campus in person or whether you'll be virtual. For our master's thesis option, this again requires the 12 core courses, or core credits, the 12 elective credits, and then 6 thesis credits. And the difference between the thesis and the project is that this thesis option will also require 3 professors that will examine your dissertation. And this route typically takes a little bit longer. So I just want to put on your radar that you will, in either of these master's situations, still need to identify a primary PI. So again, whether you're remote or in person, you'll want to be thinking about that. And then in regards to the PhD programs, if you're coming in with a master's degree, expect about 3 years until you defend your thesis. And if you're coming in with a BS, about 5 to 6 years. And with all of those degrees, so they are a little bit different, but you will still need to take those core courses. And the core courses that are offered in the BME department in the fall will maintain those core courses. So that's BME 533, which is human physiology, BME 572, which is experimental design and statistical models, and then the BME 590, which is our seminar. And so just like every fall semester, those will be offered again, either some of them may have an in-person option, but they will all be offered online as well. So whether you're in person or not. And of course, we have a variety of BME electives that will be offered as well. And you can check the schedule as that becomes listed and to fill up your credits. You can also take electives within Watson School and any other elective within Watson School that will count towards a BME elective, and up to 8 credits can be taken outside of Watson. So as long as they are relevant to BME. So that's sort of the quick snapshot overview of the courses that are offered and your requirements within BME. So if you've got any specific questions, I will do my best to answer them, but you can also reach out to our graduate director, Dr. Guy German, or our department chair, Dr. Kai-Ming Ye, and then they can also help with answering any further questions as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tracy. And again, I'm just going to note, students, if you're sending questions via the Q&A feature and you do have specific questions for biomedical engineering or whichever department, please just identify the department that those questions are directed at so that we can better ensure that those are being addressed by the correct office. So with that, we will move on to computer science. We have a couple of different representatives for their offices here. So we've got Les Lander, Madhu Govindaraju, and Wei Meng on the call. I believe that Les is going to be taking the lead on the talking, but if I have that wrong, that's fine. No. Okay, so
I think, well, Wei presented the slides. Oh, that's our slides. Maybe Wei is going to do it. Let's just see.
Okay.
I can definitely do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm very happy to see a lot of applicants in computer science are here. And we appreciate that you've taken the time to be here to find more information about what's going to happen in the fall. So I'm going to provide you a very brief update about also information about the computer science department. As you can see from my slides, there are a lot of degree programs and certificate programs in the CS department. But I believe that most of you are applying for the Master of Science in Computer Science. And we are also the largest department in the Watson School. We have, as you can see, over 600 undergraduate students. And our master program is also the largest on campus. And we have, as you can see here, 366 master students and also close to 80 PhD students. And we have, more than 30 full-time faculty in the department. And I cannot see actually the full screen here. So we have, our faculty can cover a lot of areas in computer science. And maybe next slide.
Mhm.
And because the size of the faculty, we basically can cover almost all areas in computer science and that are of interest to students. And in particular, we have defined a number of areas of focus for the MS program. And you can find the information from our website. For example, for AI and machine learning, we list a number of courses that we offer in that area. Similarly, for data science and information systems, we also list a number of courses for that area. So for each of those focus areas, and we have more details on the website. And for the orientation, I think our orientation will be following the orientation from the IEEE. And so currently we have decided that our orientation will happen on August 19th. And it's going to be done online using Zoom. We're going to provide the link as we get closer to the time. And considering that many of our students or applicants are all over the world, come from different time zones, we are prepared to offer multiple sessions for the convenience of students. So we decide on the specific sessions. We provide the information about the time when it's come closer to August 19th. And in computer science, we handle registration somewhat differently from other departments. Typically, this is done after the orientation. So we tell students how we manage our courses. And our staff and faculty will actually help students to do the registration. So before that, we provide you a form for you to indicate what are the courses you prefer to take. And we'll try to satisfy your preferences as much as possible. And if students could not come on campus and you have to take the course online, then we are ready to offer at least the following 7 courses online. And 2 of those are required courses. If you have read our website, you will find out that we have 4 required courses for our MS-CS program, and 2 will be offered in the fall. And so 2 will be offered in spring. At this time, I also want to mention that for students who are thinking about coming in the spring of 2021, and we do offer all required courses every semester. So even if you come in the spring, you can still finish the degree in about 2 years or less, 2 years or less. And we also offer 5 electives here. They are all popular courses for our students. So if you come on campus, of course, you are going to have much more options on campus. All right.
All right. Thank you very much, Wei. And actually, Wei brings up an excellent point with regard to the spring semester. One thing that is unique about the Watson School's programs in engineering and applied science is that all of them have spring intake anyway. So we have designed our curriculum to allow students to start in either the fall or the spring. And so as Wei mentioned, if you come in spring 2021, if you defer your admission, you don't have to worry about it adding a lot of time to your degree, which is great. But there are some other things that you would need to consider with that, and we will come to those points in a short while. Thank you very much, Wei. Vladimir, would you like to talk about electrical and computer engineering?
Sure. My name is Vladimir Nikulin. I'm an associate professor in the ACE department, and I'm also the graduate programs director. So if you have any questions after this webinar, feel free to email me. Most likely going to be able to answer those. We currently do not have a set date for the orientation. We're still working on the schedule, but it's typically done within a week before the classes start. We usually did this in person in the past, but this year we're going to use Zoom for online access, and we're probably going to have a recording of the orientation made available to the students as well. So either format should be available. Now the registration for new students, we typically give them well, some of the critical information during the orientation that they need to know. So they usually they start registering right after. And by that time, they'll kind of know the structure of the program, if they need to take specific courses. And just to give you a quick glance, I didn't put this into slides, but if you're looking at our MS program, we have courses basically allocated to 7 areas of focus. And every MS student will basically pick what area of focus they would like to pursue, and they have to take a certain number of courses from that area. Then they have to take 2 breadth courses from 2 other areas. They do have to take some electives. And we do have 2 options. One is with a MS project and one is with a thesis. So depending on which one they choose, they basically take either 8 or 9 courses altogether, plus thesis or project. And we'll have all that information shared during the orientation. So students very often have questions about how do they pick the area of focus, and what should they start taking in the first semester. And we usually address all of that during the orientation, so they have a better idea of what classes they would like to register for. As far as the course selection, in the fall semester, our department will have almost every single course, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 at the most, available online, either as online hybrid or online asynchronous. So the lectures will be made available. Students should be able to do their coursework remotely if they choose to. But we're still also hoping to have in-class instructions at the same time. So that's probably all I would say right now. And again, if you have any questions, just email me, and I'll be able to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, next we've got Professor Guawen Zhao for Material Science and Engineering.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Guawen Zhao. I'm a professor of material science and engineering, and also I'm a co-director for the MSc program. So for the first, for the orientation, so MSc orientation is currently scheduled for Monday, August 24th. So it will be in person, or I think, and also available for like online through Zoom. Regarding the registration, so you can email me or Kathy Michaels, so we can handle the registration for basically for you guys. Okay. So now I'm going to talk about a little bit about the courses that will be offered for the program. So so MSc program, we have several degree options. So for like a PhD program, we have like 24 credits and the course credits, and also like 6 credits for like research projects and the thesis. And also we have 3 options for masters. So one's like a courses plus like thesis, or courses like with like a research project, and also like all courses kind of degree. Okay. So for the fall semester, so we have several core courses and plus some electives. So basically, so we offer the courses in person and also through online. So if you are not able to come on campus for the fall, so you can still you're still able to take the courses. Okay. So we have the and also for the research projects, and also actually when you choose the courses, you can discuss with MSc faculty members. So we have faculty from several departments, from mechanical engineering, physics, and chemistry. So I would suggest you to contact our faculty members for your research interest on the topic actually want to pursue, so they can provide the guidance for example, for courses and also for any research opportunities and also funding opportunities. I think this is the some brief information, and so we'll have more detail during the orientation. And also, if you have any actual further questions, you just feel free to email me, so I can help to answer your questions. And also, we can also have help from Kathy Michaels. She can also hand off the registration for you. Okay, I think that's that's what I have.
Thank you very much, Bawen. So next is mechanical engineering. We had hoped to have Graduate Director Paul Sherratt joining us today, but he's a bit busy. He's got a new baby coming today. And so he has shared some information with me, and I'm actually going to be presenting that to everybody. So mechanical engineering has scheduled their orientation sessions. These are scheduled for August 25th. They will have a separate session for master's students versus PhD students. And then there's also going to be, both of those will be held over Zoom, I should say. And then there's going to be a third in-person Q&A session also held on the 25th, a bit later in the afternoon. And so the idea is that everyone will participate in the orientation online via Zoom, share questions as much as they are able. But then students who are physically on campus will also have this opportunity to do an in-person Q&A, where those who have completed the orientation online will need to do follow-up emails or one-on-one Zoom meetings with the department. Registration information will be shared as part of orientation, as you've heard from many of our departments. For course selection, PhD students should be checking in with their advisors about what courses they should be taking. And then for those who are master students, the best options for the fall semester are going to be either numerical methods or analytical methods, which is part of the curriculum, elasticity or fluid dynamics, design, and then one additional tech elective. So the proposal is really to have have every student taking 4 courses. That's considered the full-time load. And then there is a bit of flexibility about what you're taking, with the exception of design, which everyone is going to need to take. Details for all of the courses are available on the website. Again, that's true for all of our programs. I would highly encourage you to be checking out the departmental web pages, as well as the university bulletin, to get more information about the different courses that are available. So finally, we have our System Science and Industrial Engineering department, who will be talking a bit about some of their programs. And for them, we have Professor Mohammed Kusavne, as well as Hiroki Sayama. So I will pull up y'all's slides.
Thank you, Maggie, and good evening, everyone, and welcome. On behalf of the System Science and Industrial Engineering Department, I'd like to welcome you to Binghamton University. Dr. Hiroki Sayama and myself are available throughout the session if you have any specific questions about the department and various opportunities. And as part of this meeting, would like to share with you some information about the coursework and orientation and so on. However, before we start, I just want to remind you that our department offers various programs at the graduate level. We have an MS and PhD in Industrial and Systems Engineering, an MS and PhD in System Science. Some of you might be in the Health Systems Engineering master's degree, and we also have several tracks, official tracks that show up on your transcript and diploma, such as the Health Systems track. And we also have several specializations or focus areas that you can pursue as part of your master's or PhD degree, whether it's data science and analytics, manufacturing, electronics, packaging, applied optimization, supply chain management, and logistics. We have all of these options available, and depending on what degree program you are in, that might change the electives that you would end up taking. The Masters in Industrial and Systems Engineering and Masters in System Science share at least 2 of the core courses, but for electives, you have a lot of options to choose from. And we will talk about that in a few minutes, but I'd like to let you know that you can consult with Dr. Sayama if you are a system science student about your registration, or you can consult with Dr. Lam about your registration if you are in the industrial and systems engineering track. And if you are unsure who to contact, you can always reach out to me directly, and I will gladly direct you to the appropriate graduate director. And my colleagues Erin Hornbeck and Lindsay Bukta are also here and are available to answer questions. We are the 2nd largest graduate program at Binghamton University, and we actually currently rank the highest on campus in terms of committed funds and research funding, and the 2nd on campus in terms of expenditures. So we do have quite a few opportunities for students to participate as graduate research assistants, working with faculty in various labs, both on campus and as part of the Watson Institute for Systems Excellence. And those opportunities are available for students in any of these programs. Of course, if you are a full-time student, this is not available for distance learners. And I'd like to also mention that we do have a Master of Engineering program with a focus on systems engineering. And we have one that is being finalized and with a focus on engineering management. We expect the approval for the engineering management degree to take place in the next few months or maybe later this year. So for those of you who will be joining us in the fall or in the next academic year, you may even have the option to transfer to this program once it's approved. Next, please. Mm-hmm. In terms of orientation, as you have heard earlier, registration starts online on August 10th. Therefore, our department has recently decided to host our orientation on August 6th. That's a Thursday from 1 to 4 p.m. Of course, we have a lot of international students and a lot of domestic students. This orientation will be recorded. So this way, if you are not able to join us live, you will have the option to view the recording. And our plan is also to schedule a separate Q&A for those who are international students and may not be able to join. The orientation will be conducted via Zoom, so it will be completely online. And the link will be sent to all of you closer to the event, probably in late July, early August. And as part of the orientation, our plan is to introduce you to the department, all the faculty members. So this way you get to see the breadth and depth of our department in terms of our faculty, where they come from, the courses that they teach, and the areas in which they do research. You will also be introduced to the staff who will be helping you throughout your academic journey in SSIE and explain various resources such as library, careers, and so on. You will also have more specific information about the faculty and their research labs and the various opportunities they may have. And we will also talk specifically about each degree program, the core requirements, and the electives. And of course, just like other departments, we have, for the master's degree, we have a thesis option and we have a project option. The thesis option is 8 courses plus 6 credits of thesis. And the project option is 9 courses and 3 credits of project. For the PhD program, depending on your background and where you got your degrees from, you may have 8 to 12 courses to take as part of the PhD program. Then minimum number of courses is 8. Most of our students end up taking 3 semesters of coursework. So a total of 3 semesters, 3 courses per semester, so 9 courses, even though the range is 8 to 12. We do not have a specific set of core courses required for the PhD program. However, we follow what we call a learning contract, where the graduate director and your advisor will customize a program of study for each individual student. Next, please. Our department offers a wide range of classes in many different domains, from healthcare systems engineering to data science and analytics, to manufacturing, modeling and simulation, supply chain management and logistics, and so on. So you have quite a few options to choose from. This is the list of the 500 level courses that we teach in the department. And all of these will be available with an in-person component and an online component. So those of you who might decide to stay in your home country and possibly join us remotely, maybe taking 1 or 2 classes in the fall, 1 or 2 classes in the spring, you will have the ability to enroll in any of these classes during the upcoming academic year. If not, if you decide to defer to spring of 2021 and join us in person, you know, our department gets about 40 to 50 students usually in the spring semester, and all the core courses are offered in both the fall and spring semester. So you truly will not be at a disadvantage if you decide to defer your admission to the spring semester. And all of these courses, for the most part, they will be available in the next academic year as well. You know, about 95% of our courses typically repeat in the following academic year. Next, please. Maggie, are you still there? Until Maggie comes back, I'm just going to share my screen. Any of my colleagues can let me know if you're able to see my slides?
Yes, we can.
We can see them.
Thank you. Sorry about the technical difficulty, but this is the list of courses that I mentioned earlier at the 500 level. Those are typically at the master's level, even though PhD students are also able to take some of our 500 level courses as well. So one thing I'd like to mention here that, I'm gonna pull this out, the SSIE 501 and SSIE 500, those are core classes for system science students. SSIE 505 and SSIE 510 are core classes for industrial and systems engineering students. And the rest are all electives. Some of them are actually options for core courses, like operations research is one of the options for the core courses for the master's program. Students can choose OR, operations research, or quality engineering. They have one of these options to choose from. Some of these are data science oriented, like computational tools. This is where you would learn about Python and information theory. If you are interested in data science and analytics, even as an ISC student, you can take this course as an elective, even though it's a core course for the system science program. And if you're interested in manufacturing, we have additive manufacturing, 3D printing, electronics manufacturing and packaging, materials for manufacturing, and so on. So as you can see, with the breadth and depth of courses that we offer provides our students with a lot of opportunities. And, you know, specifically for data science and healthcare is a booming area in the United States and many other countries. As you might have seen, many countries have been looking at predicting COVID-19 using various machine learning and continuous type, simulation models and so on to help prepare healthcare systems to respond to the pandemic. So we have a focus course that teaches you data science and analytics with specific applications in the healthcare domain. At the PhD level, we also offer quite a few courses for students to choose from. All master students are required to take at least one 600 level courses. PhD students are required to take anywhere between 3 to 5 600 level courses. There's no, again, as I mentioned earlier, no set of specific courses to take. It would depend on your background and your research interest, and the graduate director or the department chair can help you with the selection of these courses. From advanced supply chain management to machine learning in healthcare, which is the SSIE 637 class, a very focused class on engineering analytics, adaptive optimization, and engineering management. We're offering this course in preparation for our Master of Engineering program in engineering management. So for those of you who are interested in engineering management, you will be able to take this course in the fall as well. And as I mentioned, all of these courses will have an in-person component for those who are in Binghamton and an online component for those who will be joining us remotely from abroad. What we do recommend, however, for international students who won't be able to join us in the fall in person due to visa restrictions or personal preference, just to stay at home during the fall year, and if you don't want to wait until spring of 2021 or fall of 2021 to start your academic degree, you can possibly take one or two of these classes or more, depending on your interest, if you would like to stay engaged and get to know more about our teaching style and so on and so forth. Even though you can take any of the classes that I mentioned earlier at the 500 level or 600 level, for those of you who choose to stay at home, we're going to recommend one or more of these 500 level courses. Those are core courses, again, for system science and for industrial engineering. So you can take one or two, and this way, if you join us in person in the spring, you would be at least one or two courses ahead. Or if you decide to join us in the fall of 2021, you will at least be anywhere between one to even up to 6 courses ahead, and you won't be at a disadvantage when it comes to graduation and other opportunities. And with that, I'd like to let you know that, as I mentioned earlier, registration begins on August 10th. You will have the orientation on August 6th. Please be sure to connect with your graduate director to review your choices. You can register on your own. You don't have to send us an email or ask us for permission to take classes. Feel free to choose on your own, keeping in mind the core courses that you need to take. However, we would like you to connect with the graduate director, Dr. Sayama, for system science, and Dr. Sarah Lam for industrial engineering, if you would like to review your choices with the graduate director. The registration, as you will find out in a few weeks or a few months, will be done completely online using BU Brain. So you will have the ability to log in and register on your own. If you are a distance learning student as part of our Engineet program, or even otherwise, please feel free to connect with Janice Kinzer, Lindsay Bukta, our graduate secretary, or Erin Hornbeck, our assistant to the chair. They will gladly help you with the registration for these online courses. And all 20 sections that are numbered 20, we have section 1 and 20. Section 1 typically is the on-campus section. Section 20 is the online section. But if you have any issues with the registration, please feel free to contact Lindsay Bukta. And before I turn it over back to Maggie and my other colleagues, I'd like to mention that several of you have asked, I'd like to take some gap courses during the next academic year to get an early start. I know some of you told me that they have deferred their admission already, but they're looking for suggestions of classes to take. 2 of the most important courses for SS and ISC students are applied probability and statistics and computational tools, which is Python programming. So if you are able to find a course on Coursera or Udemy or any other platforms, those are the 2 that we would highly recommend: applied probability and statistics and Python programming. Dr. Sayama, would you like to add anything?
No, Mohammed, you covered everything. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mohammed. Thank you, Hiroki, and everybody for sort of working with me through that. This is why I made everybody have the ability to share screen in case there was an issue, so thank you. With that, that's all of our departments sharing their information, and I would like to turn this over for a moment to our International Student and Scholar Service Office, who has a bit of information that I think many of you will find helpful and interesting. And then from there, we will move to trying to address some of the Q&A pieces as well.
Hi, my name is Becky Greenstrom, and I am the Associate Director of International Student and Scholar Services. I've been watching your questions come in through the chat, so hopefully I'll address some of those questions in just a few brief points that I have to share, but I'm also going to be here through the whole Q&A session, so if there are other things, I'm happy to help. Want to let you know that if you decide to take all of your classes online for the fall semester, you will have to do that from outside the United States. And if you're doing that, we will be deferring the start date on your I-20 to the spring 2021 semester. Or of course, if you have already decided to defer your admission completely to either spring or fall, then we will be deferring your I-20 start date accordingly. But if you decide to start this semester but take all of your courses online, we will be updating your I-20 to show a January start date. What that means is that you would not be able to enter the US during the fall semester. So if you start your classes online, you get a visa in October, you still would not be able to come to the US during the fall semester. The earliest that you would be able to enter the United States would be 30 days before the start date on your new I-20. And since our spring semester starts in January, that means the earliest that you could come here would be around the middle of December. If you've already paid the SEVIS fee, that fee payment will still be valid. When we defer the start date on your I-20, it's still the same SEVIS ID number. And so if you've paid the SEVIS fee already, that fee payment is valid for 1 year. We are monitoring information about US embassies and consulates. Unfortunately, we do not have any inside information about when they will be reopening and resuming normal operations. We're monitoring it the best we can. I would also recommend that you monitor the website for the US embassy or consulate that's closest to you, because that's where updates will be posted the quickest. If you are currently in the United States, if any of you have done another degree in the US and would be transferring your immigration record to us, we are still waiting for guidance from the Department of Homeland Security on what flexibility there might be for the fall. So far, they have not released any guidance specific to online classes for the fall semester for those who are already in the US. So we're still waiting on that. Again, we will be communicating that information as quickly as possible once we have it. And then I do also want to mention, I've seen some questions in the chat. I know this is a hot topic. If you either defer your admission to the spring semester or you start online this fall and then are coming in person in the spring semester, we'll be pushing back the start date on your I-20. That does also push back your eligibility for any internship authorizations. So in order to be eligible for curricular practical training, or CPT, which is the most common internship authorization, you have to have been in the US for at least 1 full academic year. So that your start date would be January in terms of your I-20, and then you would have to do 1 full academic year before you're eligible for any off-campus work authorization. But having said that, I know that Watson is working on providing additional opportunities during summer 2021 to make sure that students are still able to get some of those awesome practical experiences that they're looking for. So I'll let Maggie share some more information on that. Oh, Maggie, I think you're muted.
Yeah, I've been so good about that. So yes, thank you very much, Becky. I just wanted to note, again, as it was mentioned earlier, we are very aware of the large number of international students in particular that are in the School of Engineering and Applied Science, and with concerns around the availability of CPT for summer 2021, we're trying to find some very practical options for students. And so I wanted to let you know some of what we're looking at. There is not a finalized list yet, but we are looking at doing some online certifications, micro-credentials, and online badges. Normally, these would be offered through our continuing education office at a cost, but we are looking to make these free for students who have paid their deposit and are able to continue on and get that experience. Once that list is finalized, we will be sure to share it with everyone, just so you know about those opportunities and how to go about taking advantage of them. You know, what is the mode of instruction, what the time commitment is going to be, because some of them are, you know, sort of one-day workshops, others are multiple day, you know, courses that you're doing, but many of them will give you badges that you can put on your LinkedIn profile. You can certainly list these on your resume. And we're also looking at some options that, you know, CPT is for when you want to work off campus. We're trying to work to identify opportunities for students on campus, but we certainly, given our large number of students, can't guarantee these for everyone. So we're trying to figure out some options that would be available to all students. Again, we will keep you guys updated on those, and we just wanted to give you a brief update of some of those options. So with that, we are going to move to the Q&A portion of the session. I see that a few participants have raised their hands, which is what allows us to identify you. I can unmute you and you can share your questions. I would ask that when you do this, you please identify the program that you're applying to and who your question is directed at. And I know there's a lot of stuff that's also coming through on the Q&A. One thing that I had flagged as being answered live, and Becky, I think you addressed this a little bit already, is if a student takes online courses for the fall semester and then the consulates are still closed, you know, sort of what happens moving forward. If they can't come in the spring, can they come in the fall? If they can't come after that because a visa gets denied, for example, how do they move forward?
Sure. So in that situation, first of all, I would definitely recommend that you be in contact with your department because they are going to be able to give you the best information about your academic options and how to move forward there. And so definitely work with them and then work with graduate admissions and with ISSS, because we can certainly defer the start date on your I-20 again. That's not a problem. But we just want to make sure that you're getting the information from your department so that you have all of those things covered. And then the question about visa denials. I would say if you are in the unfortunate situation of having a visa denied, contact ISSS as quickly as possible. I should mention our email address is isss@binghamton.edu. And so you would want to contact us so that we can talk with you about what documents you provided at the visa interview and work with you to strategize about how you could improve an application for a second interview.
Thank you. There were a couple of other questions in the Q&A that I thought would be better addressed live, just because you're going to be the person we need to ask anyway. If a student has gotten their I-20 electronically online and already paid their SEVIS fees, but now they're looking at deferring, are they going to have to repay those SEVIS fees, and how are they issued a new I-20?
Sure. So the SEVIS fee payment is linked to the SEVIS ID that's on the I-20. When we defer the start date on the I-20, it's still going to be the same SEVIS ID. So that SEVIS fee payment is valid for 1 year. So if you've already paid that, that's fine. It will continue to be on the record. As far as the process for deferrals, it's going to depend a little bit on whether, if you've deferred your admission completely, we'll be getting that information from graduate admissions, and we'll defer the I-20s based on that. If your plan is to start online and then come in person, we'll also be getting that information and issuing the I-20s as we become aware of it. Right now, we're still focused on I-20s for students who are trying to get here for fall. So we'll be transitioning over to working on those deferrals to spring probably in the beginning of the fall semester. And again, if we're able to continue issuing those I-20s electronically, which is what we're doing right now, we'll continue to do that. That is a temporary situation that's been put in place due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So if the Department of Homeland Security changes their policy on that, then we'll have to adjust accordingly. But right now, we're issuing all of those I-20s electronically so that we can get them out to you as quickly as possible.
Excellent. There is one other question that I thought might be good, and then I see there's a couple of students who have raised hands. can you just sort of talk about from the ISSS perspective, if a student gets an internship and they want to be doing an internship while enrolled full term or full time, what are the restrictions around those opportunities for students?
Sure. So for international students in the United States, in order to be eligible for an internship authorization, you have to have been in the US as a full-time F1 student for at least one academic year. And so unfortunately, the way things are going right now, even if you're enrolled online for the fall semester, that will not count as eligibility towards that one full year. So if you're starting in person in the spring semester, you would need to complete spring 2021 and fall 2021 before you could be eligible for any off-campus work authorization for internships. So we'd be looking then at going into spring 2022 would be when you would be eligible for internship authorization. And at that point, we have a lot of information on our website. We also have advisors available to answer questions. So it's definitely thinking a bit into the future, but we are here to help and give you as much information as we can.
Okay. I know that there's a few other things that have come in through the Q&A, but Sohini has had the hand up for a minute. So Sohini, I'm going to unmute you, let you ask your question, and then I will mute it back. Okay, you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Yes, I'm from India, and I had deferred my admission from 2019 fall to 2020's fall. So I had paid my enrollment deposit last year. Do I need to pay it again? That's my first question. And the second question is, I am yet to receive my I-20 for this year. And with the situations that are going down in India, the embassies are still closed. So that way, I do not exactly know when it's going to open. So will the I-20 start date get deferred to spring, or I just need to know the situation, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's my question.
So I'm going to start, Sohini, by addressing your question about the admission deposit. The current policy is that if a student has paid their admission deposit for fall 2020 and they defer the admission, that it will move with them. I do not believe there's currently anything in place to retroactively sort of move the deposit with you, but we can certainly request that of the graduate school, just see what's possible since you had paid for 2019 and deferred to 2020. I would request that you please send me an email. I will send my email address via the chat right now. And then I can forward that request to the graduate school, see if we can get you some clarification with regard to at least the deposit piece. Becky, is there any advice that you would have with regard to the deferral and the I-20 process?
Sure. So usually once we get that deferral information from the graduate school, then we can issue that updated I-20. So I would recommend that you email isss@binghamton.edu so that then we can look into your situation more specifically and provide personalized information there.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It looks like Sohini has sort of re-raised her hand, so I'm going to unmute you again real quick so you can, I'm assuming it's a follow-up question. Okay, go ahead.
Just one more thing is that if I start my courses online for fall and then reach the States next spring, then what happens without going for a deferral? I mean,
that's a great question. Do you have any idea about that? Becky, I know we've been spending a lot of time looking at how fall 2020 students are going to be able to defer and enroll in all of these things. We haven't spent a lot of time looking at the fall 2019 applicants who had already deferred and sort of how this is impacting them. Do you have any idea, or should we just connect with ISSS and the graduate school?
I think it's probably better to look at this question individually, and then we can go from there.
Excellent. Okay. I did have something else from the chat that I wanted to sort of share, because this is something that's been coming up quite a bit. So this would actually be a question for the departments. I unfortunately do not know which department the student is from. But how departments are you guys managing RAs and TAs? Are you still going to be offering those with online education in sort of this hybrid model? Or are you sort of waiting to see how things go? And anybody can just jump in with that if you wish.
Well, perhaps I could start.
Sure, go for it.
In the ECE department, TAs are actually expected to be physically present in Binghamton because a lot of the times they have to deal with lab courses and grading and so on and so forth. But as far as the rate positions, that's really up to the faculty who actually hire students as research assistants because it's their research projects. If they can manage to have the students do the work remotely, it's up to them. So students would need to contact the faculty who are doing research in the area of their interest and see if they have any positions available if they could potentially be hired as research assistants.
Any other departments want to add to that or sort of clarify what's going on in your particular department?
Just want to say in SSIE, we are continuing to make teaching assistantship offers, RA offers to students who are joining us in the fall. And for teaching assistantships in particular, if an international student is unable to come to the Binghamton area in the fall and they decide to defer their admission to spring of 2021, our plan is to defer their assistantship as well. So if they request a deferral of the admission, we will also defer their teaching assistantship to spring of 2021. However, for research assistants, we would like to make sure that the students are here in the Binghamton area. So this way we can do the onboarding process. They can go through the human resources, payroll, forms, and so on. They need to apply for a social security number and so on for us to be able to pay them. So that's going to be a requirement. And in those cases, the deferral of the research assistantship is going to depend on the faculty member and whether they want to defer it up to the following semester or the next academic year, because they might have to hire someone else in the fall to make sure that the research program continues to run as expected. But for anybody that ends up making it to Binghamton, and if they were offered a teaching assistantship or a research assistantship, that will continue to happen, and the department or the individual faculty member will work with them on the paperwork required.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, for MSc program, yeah. So we for the for TA assistantship. So we basically request students to be on campus to do some basically like office hours and also lab sessions. So but we are able, if they are not able to come to on campus, we are able to defer to the for spring semester. So for IA positions, I think it's also like it depends on faculty member, but I think it's also requested to ask them to contact the faculty members and also if possible to defer to later semesters for I think it depends on the project, the requirement, the research project requirement. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it.
Excellent. Okay. Les, I saw you unmuted yourself. Did you want to add
Well,
anything?
I did, but it's basically the same answer as everybody else. I think the TAs will be on campus or in the country and available on campus. And the RA positions depend on the advisor, but it was mentioned that to be paid, I think you have to have a social security number and that you get in the country. I'm not. So we do have students who've gone home and can't get back, and I think they're being paid as research assistants, but they've been here before.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you all very much. I know there's a lot of things coming over the Q&A, but there's also a few students who have hands raised. So I'm going to start with Ban Navti. I'm going to allow you to talk. You will have to unmute yourself to ask the question. And again, just a reminder, please indicate who you are directing this question to. So you should now have the ability to unmute yourself and ask your question. Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I'm Banafsi Bonaventure Mekoni, right from Cameroon. I applied for Masters in Computer Science. I wish to find out from Professor Les Landa if international students can apply for a research assistantship while doing online courses.
Were you able to hear that, Les?
Yeah, so I don't know if ISSS can address this issue about actually funding students who haven't come to the US yet. But research assistantships are given to students through direct contact with faculty that are doing research in that area and have funding available. So you'd have, maybe Madhu wants to also explain some things there.
Yeah, Bandavti, I think we've exchanged emails, or at least with the department. So you need to directly contact the faculty members based on your research interest and by reviewing their web pages and see whose interest matches yours and contact them for research assistantship. And once they offer, they'll work with our international services and also the dean's office to be able to send it to you. But please note that if you're not in the US and you don't have a social security number, I don't think you can be paid. So you'll have to come here first to be able to get the scholarship.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry, also trying to do Q&A as I go back. I will just note, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, Becky, there is a student who's asked if you can work 40 hours per week when you're on CPT, once you're able to get CPT and do a summer internship. That is good, yes?
Yes, so once you're eligible for CPT, if it's during the summer and you have a really great internship offer, then yes, we can authorize you for full-time CPT. Is that?
Yes.
What about the question of doing it during the semester if they can arrange their coursework?
So for CPT during the semester, that would be something that we would want to talk, we would look at it on a case-by-case basis, want to talk with the academic advisor and understand how that internship opportunity fits in with the rest of the students' requirements.
Okay. So next person I'm going to allow to unmute is Tejal Rashal. So Tejal, you should be able to unmute yourself now and ask your question.
Hello. Currently, I'm on H4 visa and I'm in United States. So if I want to change my status from H4 to F1 now for fall 2020, then what are the options for me?
So I would say the change of status process is pretty complicated. So I would recommend that you email isss@binghamton.edu so that we can find a time to talk with you more specifically about that process. We also have advising hours every Monday and Tuesday in the morning and Wednesday and Thursday in the afternoon. Those times are listed on our website, but I can also type them in the chat in a minute. But we would really want to look at your specific situation and concerns so that we can talk about the timing and how best to make that happen.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So it looks like Maggie might have lost connectivity for a minute. So I'm just going to take a look here back at the Q&A that's going on. Oh, sorry, my thing just got. So I saw actually a few questions for Becky again. There's a bunch in the Q&A that I would just love you to weigh in on. So it looks like can a student, if they do get CPT, are they able to work 40 hours per week?
Yep, so I think we actually just addressed that one.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that. I've just been checking the Q&A.
Of course.
I also see, do they need, if a student has already put their, input their ISFS form, do they need to submit a new one if they defer? Or is that good for like a year? I'm not sure.
So I would actually recommend checking with graduate admissions on that. Because it can be valid for a period of time, but that form gets submitted to our graduate admissions office, and then we're able to view it. So I would direct any questions about the ISFS form to that office.
Wonderful. And it looks
Karen,
like
Karen, just to confirm, typically they've told us it's 1 year.
Okay, that's great to know. Thank you. And it looks like Maggie has rejoined us, so I will cede control to her.
No, I appreciate it very much. Thank you. I am just going to note, we are at what was listed as the closing time for this session. It is 9:30. And so I know some of our faculty have other things that they need to be doing, other meetings that they need to get to. Some have already had to leave for different meetings. And so I just wanted to make sure that I noted this for anybody who does need to leave. I would request, if you're willing to share your contact information, to please do that via the chat, and make sure that you have selected the option to send to all panelists and attendees. And just a reminder, we are going to be sending a recording of this PowerPoint to everybody once the session, probably early next week, once we've gotten the session cleaned up. A lot of students have asked if we're going to be sharing the Q&A, and I will tell you, we don't know. This is the first time we've ever done a Zoom webinar. I believe the Q&A is being captured, but I'm not 100% sure. If it is, we will certainly include that in the follow-up, but if not, then we can again be addressing your questions over email and things like that. So please don't worry. Okay, so next person, and I saw that this person had sent something in the Q&A session, but when I got kicked out, I lost access to all the old questions. So this is Ziyu Zong, who is mechanical engineering. So I'm going to allow you to unmute yourself, and if you want to ask your question, we will take care of that.
Okay, great. Is this working?
Yes.
All right, so my question is that my undergrad program is ended last semester, and I choose to stay here for the fall semester to avoid all the traveling problems. So what should I do with my I-20 and visas, if this makes sense?
Yeah, so Becky, just to clarify sort of the situation, this student had applied a bit late for the 4+1 program. And so they're going to be staying on for 1 year to complete the master's. And so the question is how to move forward with visa and I-20 processes. What do they need to do?
Right. So if you're currently a Binghamton University student doing the 4+1 program, you would just want to reach out to our office so that we can work with you to get the I-20 updated to show your new degree program.
Okay. So I would just say, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I think so. All I have to do, so like after my old I-20 is expired, I have like 2 months, right? So I have to do it within these 2 months to get my like new I-20 ready, right? If this makes sense.
You have a 60-day grace period to get that sorted out. But I would recommend that you contact us as soon as possible so that we can get started on letting you know what documentation you need to get that new I-20.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Most
I think that's it. It's pretty clear.
Thank you. Okay, so next person is Morali, who I'm going to allow to unmute now. So Morali, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you. So my question is, I'm here, I'm working here since past 15 years, and I actually want to do a PhD program in system sciences. So I have bachelor's degree basically, I do not have master's. And is it mandatory to take a master's first and then go to PhD, or how does it work? So if you could weigh in on that, thank you.
Yeah, so I think I already responded in the chat window. Yeah, it's not mandatory as a regulation, but that's kind of the common practice, in our department. This is an SSI department, to make sure the student first get the master's degree, and then the transition from master's degree to PhD is very smooth. You don't really have to go through any application process. So Mohammed, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would like to add, as Dr. Sayama mentioned, this is a practice in the department. It's not a policy. And we do this because we've had students in the past that were direct admits into the PhD program. And 3 or 4 years later, they decided to change their mind and not continue the PhD program. And they said, can I at least get a master's degree after spending 2 or 3 years? And when we looked at their curriculum, we realized that they don't have all the core requirements for the master's degree. And that was a huge problem. They wasted almost 2 to 3 years of coursework and time doing research and so on. So it was very problematic. So as a department, to make sure that the students continue to take advantage of their time and be efficient and effective, we have made it, a practice where we admit the students into the master's program first. And then, as Dr. Sayama mentioned, they can easily transfer to the PhD program fairly seamlessly. There's no application fee, no application process. On their graduation paperwork for the master's degree, we check a box and the student gets automatically admitted to the doctoral program.
Thank you. Okay, I see another student has a hand raised, Adeola. So I'm going to give you the option to unmute yourself if you just want to do that and ask your question.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. So I recently just submitted my application to the System Science Master's program, and I'm a current international student here in the US, and I already spent 1 academic year. So I wanted to know, when I'm transferring to Binghamton, am I eligible for CPT, or I also have to spend another academic year at BU before I'm approved for CPT?
That's a great question. Becky, how does that work for transfer students?
Yep, so for transfer students, we would look at it on a case-by-case basis. So it would depend on, talking with your department about whether or not they support that internship, and looking at how that fits in with your program. So I would say if you're in that situation, again, it's best to send us an email because it's really hard to give a general answer to such a specific question.
Actually, that's a good segue to a few of the questions that are sort of pending in the Q&A right now. A lot of them have to do with students who have jobs and are trying to figure out how this works. So I'm just going to read this verbatim for you, Becky. So if I choose to start the fall 2020 semester online while applying for visa to start on campus in spring 2020, will I get any supporting letter or document that I have already started my graduate studies with Binghamton University? And is it possible for the student to do an internship in fall 2020 while taking courses online?
So as far as the question about getting a letter, that's something that we haven't quite worked out, and that we'll be working with the departments on if students need additional documentation related to taking classes online in the fall and then trying to get a visa for spring. As far as internships, since you would be completely outside the United States during the fall semester, there wouldn't be any US visa restrictions on whether or not you could do an internship. So CPT wouldn't be an issue because you're in your home country. As far as whether or not you could get credit for an internship, that would be a question to direct to your academic department.
Excellent. Another question. So this student is a working professional who needs to give a notice at least 3 months in advance. And the question is, will fall classes, so since classes are still scheduled to start on August 26th, I just want to reiterate that, and visa and consulate issues are not resolved, can this student start on campus? So I guess the question would be the late arrival, which is something that has been asked a couple of times in Q&A. So international students who choose to begin their degree program online will not be able to enter the US during the fall 2020 semester. ISSS is going to issue an updated I-20 with a start date that is January 2021. And so the earliest that students would be able to enter the United States would be mid-December, 30 days before the start date listed on their I-20. Okay, I see another student has a hand raised, Ankush Pamecha. So I have given you the ability to speak if you just want to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello.
Yes. Hi.
My question is for System Science and Industrial Engineering. I have an admit and I'm planning to defer my admit to spring 21. Okay. So I want to know, is there any scholarship application for like applying to the spring 21? Because I heard from the seniors that there is a scholarship opportunity in maybe in October or November month.
Okay, thank you, Ankush, for your question. One thing I'd like to mention about our department's practice for assistantships in general, whether it's teaching assistantships or research assistantships, is that we do not have a formal process for applying for teaching assistantships and other opportunities. We continue to review credentials of admitted students on a regular basis as opportunities come up, and we do a matching between the requirements for that assistantships, or whether it's teaching assistant or research assistant, and then look at the student background. And if there is a fit, we create a short list of candidates and then review them at the department level if it's a teaching assistantship, or review it with faculty who are looking for research assistantships and then make decisions. And we do have opportunities both in the fall and in the spring semester. However, it's important to know that we have more opportunities in the fall compared to spring. But in a department like Industrial and Systems Engineering, we work heavily with industry on applied research. So we get requests from industry sponsors throughout the year. Sometimes we begin halfway through the fall semester, or halfway through the spring semester, or halfway through the summer. There is no specific timeline, as you can imagine, that industry follows when they award these kinds of projects to universities. And that's why, quite a few times we had started students in the spring semester. Like this past spring, we've hired at least 5 students as research assistants. Some of them joined us in the fall, and they were not funded during the fall semester. Some of them joined us in the spring, and within a week or so of their arrival, got selected for this opportunity.
I'm sorry, sir. My question was actually the Dean Scholarship. If you like,
the Dean.
I'm talking about the Dean Scholarship. Yes.
Okay. Maggie, I defer to you, and Lisa, maybe.
So a bit as Mohammed was saying about there not being a separate application, the Dean Scholarships. Basically what has happened is the departments are told you are given this many Dean Scholarships, and the departments are recommending students. So there's not a separate application process. Just as with RA and TA appointments, they're looking at your full application and your sort of materials that you've submitted and making determinations about who will be offered these positions based on that. I will also note for anybody on this session who has been offered a Dean Scholarship, I just want to make sure you know, if you were offered the Dean Scholarship for fall 2020 and you defer your admission to the spring semester, you only take half of that scholarship with you. So the scholarship is $5,000. If you defer to the spring semester, you only take $2,500 with you into that semester. And if you defer to fall 2020, then there's no guarantee of anything. Basically, you would be considered for the next round of those scholarships should they continue. Does that address your question, Ankush?
Yes, but I have I have not understood it entirely. Like, suppose I get a $5,000 scholarship in spring 21. Do we have any separate application for it to get the entire $5,000 scholarship? I'm asking.
So Maggie, I'm happy to take this. Ankush, this is Lisa Gallagher. I am in the Dean's office, and just to explain, as Maggie did, just to reiterate, the Dean's Scholarship was an incentive. We've done this for 2 years now, and we did allocate a certain amount of positions to each department. And departments had their own criteria for choosing students. And for the most part, when a department has funding for scholarships, it's an academic, it's academic merit. So with that said, it was only intended for 2020-21. And if you are not able to be on campus in the fall, as Maggie said, you are entitled to half of it if you do show up on campus in the spring. Whether we're going to offer it next year is difficult to say. We were fortunate to be able to offer it a second year this year, but there are no guarantees of that, which is unfortunate. I know it's a nice package, but that's kind of the way it works. Is that clear?
Oh, sorry, I think. No, he has the ability to unmute. Does that help, Ankush?
Yes. I'm totally
Excellent.
convinced.
Thank you. So I do see that we've got, Sohini has raised a hand again, so I'm going to allow you to unmute yourself. Sohini, go ahead.
Hi, this may seem repetitive, but my question is, if I do not defer my admission, I take the courses online for fall, okay, and I reach on campus during the spring, how does my I-20 look like? Since I am a deferral student from fall 19 to fall 20. That's all. That is what my question is.
Great, thank you.
So in that situation, we would be deferring the start date on your I-20 to the spring 2021 semester. We would need to work with you specifically on figure out whether or not the CVIS fee payment would transfer in that case, because it would have been more than a year since your I-20 was initially issued. But again, that would be something to look at on your specific record. So I'd recommend emailing us so we can talk more about that.
Maggie, if I may add, in this case with the grad school, if the student defers their admission to spring, would they have the ability to take classes in the fall? Because what I would suggest, and I don't know if that's correct or not, would be for the students not to defer their admission if they plan to take classes in the fall. And as Becky mentioned, they will defer the start date of their I-20. And this way they are able to take classes freely in the fall of 2020.
Becky, I saw you unmuted yourself. Did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to thank you for clarifying that deferring the start date on the I-20 and deferring the admission may be different. Mm-hmm. So yes, if you want to take classes for the fall, although we would defer the start date on your I-20, that's separate from the admissions process.
Mm-hmm.
And can I just ask Becky, if the I-20 will be for 2 years, so they'd have already got way into their master's program, but their I-20 would then be 2 calendar years starting in say January.
Right.
Is that true?
We're still working out those details.
Okay. Yeah, because it sounds confusing to me. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think there's going to be students in some very different situations depending on, whether they're taking one class or taking a full 12 credits online. So we'll be working that out. Definitely want to make sure that everybody gets enough time on their I-20s to complete their programs.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Les. And I know this question has been answered a little bit before, but I'm just going to answer this live. If you defer your admission, so you've been admitted for fall 2020, and if you defer to spring 2021, a new I-20 is going to be coming to you a bit later in this semester. So once the actual spring application has officially opened. So that's usually sometime in September or October that we would start issuing those out. One other question, and I believe I know the answer to this, so I'm going to move forward, and then if anybody wants to correct me, then go ahead. So the question is the minimum number of credits for which a student has to be enrolled for fall 2020. And my understanding of this from the graduate school is that the answer will depend on if you're doing stuff in person on campus or if you're taking classes online. So if you are physically coming to campus and taking courses, you will need to be a full-time student, which would mean taking at least 12 credit hours. My understanding from the graduate school is that if a student is taking courses online, they do not have to take a full load that they can be taking a slightly lower number of classes if they want to take maybe only 2, which would be 6 credit hours, or 3, which is 9 credit hours. But that's something that would need to be talked through with your department, where they will let you know what is acceptable to them. Maybe they're only wanting students to do courses full time, for example. So you're going to want to talk to them. Does anybody have any additional clarification or something else they would like to add to that? Don't see anybody unmuting. Okay, I see we've got a couple of people who have raised hands again. So Kalpita, I've hit the button that allows you to talk if you want to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are. So what is your question?
Yeah, actually in my application, it is showing that final official bachelor transcript, it is showing pending. So I have already submitted the mark sheets and the details. So what exactly is final official bachelor transcript? Because I'm staying in some other city, because of COVID situation, it's difficult to get.
Absolutely, yes. So this is actually a question that we had asked of the graduate school. So there is some information on their website about what they mean when they're saying final official bachelor's transcript. I'll send that in the chat in just one moment. But I also wanted to share with you part of their answer. Due to COVID-19 and understanding that students may be staying further away from their universities and things like that, normally we would require that these be a final official bachelor's transcript be submitted in the first few weeks of the fall semester. But because of COVID-19, we are allowing students enrolling for fall 2020 to submit the final official bachelor's transcript within the first few weeks of the spring semester. This is a break from tradition. Normally, like I said, this has been more, you have to submit it within the first few weeks of the semester that you're enrolling in. But they've allowed a bit of flexibility there. I'm going to pull up from their website just what exactly they mean when they talk about final official bachelor's transcript. And so I will send that via the chat. Okay, and I see Sohini has another question, so you should be able to unmute yourself now.
Yes, my question is that if I start my course online for the fall session, will it still be considered a full-time program? Yeah, that's it.
Sorry, I was just trying to type in the information. I'm sorry, Sohini, would you mind asking that again? I was typing, and so I actually didn't completely comprehend.
The thing is, my question is that if I start my course online for the fall semester and then reach campus during this spring, then will my course be considered full-time?
Okay, I got you, Becky.
That should be all.
Sure. So there's a couple different variations on full-time here. So generally the university, you need to take 12 credits per semester in order to be considered a full-time student until you've completed 24 credits. And so as far as the immigration piece, whatever you take during the fall semester, whether you take 3 credits or 12 credits, is not going to be counted as a full-time semester for immigration purposes if you're taking those courses online from outside the United States. So your time as a full-time F1 student would start from the point that you enter the US. So if you're doing online classes in the fall, that would start from the spring semester. With regard to whether it counts as a full-time for the graduate school's definition, that would be something to address to the graduate school specifically.
Okay.
Maggie, there's a question in Q&A about H4 from Kavita. If you could see if Becky could look into that.
Sure, just a second, let me pull that up.
Sure.
I think Becky did say, didn't you, that to contact you directly?
Yeah, I mean, for very specific questions like that, I think it's best to contact ISSS individually so we can look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Becky.
Thank
and
you.
I'm just going to repeat something that Becky had said earlier, which is that if a student has already paid their SEVIS fee and then they defer their admission, we don't know yet about if you're going to have to pay that fee again. We would recommend that you connect with the ISSS office to see what's available. You unmuted. Did I misunderstand that?
Yeah, so the SEVIS fee payment is valid for 1 year. So if you're deferring or if you're starting online and will be deferring the start date on your I-20, that SEVIS fee payment is valid for 1 year. So the only time when it might be an issue is for students who were already deferring from a previous semester and then are going to defer again. If that gets beyond 1 year, then you may need to pay it again, but check with us individually so we can look at that for your situation.
Okay. I know we've got a slightly long question here. So again, I'm just going to read it because I want to make sure I don't misrepresent anything. This student is stuck with a great dilemma. I mean, something that I think a lot of us can understand. This student had their visa approved already and they are ready to come and start everything. They are a working professional who needs to give a notice period of 3 months. Not sure if they should resign the position because of the COVID situation earlier, if this is going to be online or on campus. And so considering the situation, they are asking if, since they have an active visa but are not able to fly to America, what is advisable? How should they proceed? You know, do they need, if they have the visa but they're not able to do flights currently, do they need to be planning to do the fall semester online? Or is there some sort of special exception for them since they have the visa already?
So from the immigration piece of that, I mean, first of all, that sounds like a really complicated, challenging situation. If you have a visa and are able to get here, then you could certainly start in person and take full-time classes in person in the fall. If you're not able to get here for the fall semester, then we would still need to defer the start date on your I-20 because even though you already have the visa, your F1 status wouldn't start until you're here in the US and taking full-time classes. But again, I would say that's a really complex situation and you're going to want to talk with your academic department about what's going to make the most sense academically. And then also check in with ISSS so that we can work out what your immigration options are.
Thank you, Becky. So I know that we have gone quite a bit over time already, and I don't currently see any pending questions in the Q&A, but I do see some students who have raised their hands. So I'm going to take this opportunity to ask all of our faculty and staff participants if you wouldn't mind sending, if you're willing, contact information for yourself or your department via the chat feature. And again, ensure you're sending this to all panelists and attendees so they can see that. If you can just include your name, your department, and then the email ID that they should reach out to. I am going to allow Vinayak to unmute themselves and ask their question. And then there's one more from Megask. So I will address that question as well, and then we will be closing out the session. So Vinayak, please go ahead.
Hey, hi Maggie. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
So basically, I have received an admit for CS. So if I defer my admit to spring 21, so as of now, I won't be able to use CPT in summer break. So is there any possibility for me to do coursework during that period?
Yes, yes. CS does have summer courses, yes. Quite a lot of students did it this summer because they couldn't get internships because of the COVID situation. So we had a lot of students taking summer courses this year too.
Yeah, Vinayak, the Dean's Office is also offering some free digital courses, badges this summer because students are stuck here. And so we expect the same for next year, perhaps not free, but lots of offerings of courses both from system science, industrial engineering, also computer science. We will have online courses, 3 credit courses, but also small certifications and badges so that you can improve your skills while you're here.
I would also like to add maybe something that is applicable to all Watson students. Binghamton University has significant funding from industry across the Watson School and other departments as well. In the US, funding from industry to universities is about 6 to 7%. At Binghamton University, it's about 21 to 22%, which means that we have very advanced labs on campus that focus on various areas, especially for equipment heavy type of research, manufacturing, material science and engineering, vibrations, robotics, and many more. So if you are on campus, you will have access to highly advanced facilities, even though it's not officially an internship. It's a research experience that you could do with your advisor or in department labs, but that will give you great experience with hands-on activities that you can add to your resume, and that will carry a lot of weight. I mean, we have a lot of industrial companies that work with us that don't have access to this equipment, and they send their technicians and engineers on campus. They send them with samples, or they send samples to us to run the analysis on these samples for them because they don't have access to these technologies. So that gives you access to state-of-the-art facilities. I would say conservatively, probably $20 to $30 million or more worth of highly advanced equipment. So that's a big advantage for us at the university, in addition to all the certificates that my colleagues have talked about, whether it's data science, Python programming, Lean Six Sigma. Those professional certificates are great credentials to have. And in some cases, they are a must-have, not a nice to have, because employers look for them.
Les, I saw you unmuted. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I thought there might be a question.
Oh, okay. So finally, this will be our last question that we're answering vocally. We've got Megashk. So I'm going to allow you to talk if you just want to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
I have 2 questions. One question is regarding the scholarship that I have received. They have sent me certain forms for SSN numbers and the payroll. Is there any deadline to submit those forms if I'm going online? And in case of deferral, do I need to submit those forms right now? And my second question is for the computer science department, but I think it's applicable for all the departments, because I want to ask about the online classes, like how the online classes and labs are conducted, how the timing issues like the time differences are addressed, how the number of students are managed in the online class, or how the labs are conducted. If anyone from the computer science department can answer this question. Yeah.
I think the 2 people that are there, maybe Madhu will, they record what they're doing. Either they do it live and on Zoom and record it, or they pre-record the class, using some other material. So they make that available. But ideally, students will be able to attend the live interaction. But they will be the regular scheduled times. That may be quite difficult for students in another country. But I'm sure everybody will be making a recording available. How about Madhu?
Yeah, Megaksh, we're also we will look at the class enrollment and see how many students we have from India, from China, and our own domestic students. And apart from recorded sessions, we would also have Zoom interaction sessions with our students. And we'll break it up into smaller sections for students from different regions. We'll have the TAs interact with students, but all of these depend on what the course strength is, where the students are from, and an individual course basis. Not all courses have labs, but most CS courses would have a significant programming component to it. So you would be interacting very heavily with the TAs and also the instructors for the course. So we're getting very good at teaching online. We've had some experience in the past, and of course in the spring we moved completely online. So you can rest assured that the instructors and the TAs will be very engaged with you.
Does that address all of your questions, Nagash?
Yes, yes.
Excellent.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I know Becky had one thing that she wanted to add and address vocally before we close out the session. Becky?
Yep. So just one other question that was in the Q&A was a question of, I'll just read it. What if I get a visa somehow in the mid-fall 2020 semester with my old I-20 to enter fall in the US and decide to join in spring 2021 because the semester has already started? Will ISSS update my graduation date on the visa information? And so, you know, just like we mentioned earlier, we will be deferring the start date to the spring semester in and yes, we'll be looking at the end dates as well when we defer them, because we definitely want to make sure that everybody has enough time to complete their programs. And I also want to reassure you that that end date is not static. So once you're here, if you end up completing your degree program early, we can always shorten the end date on the I-20. Or if it turns out that you will need more time to complete your degree, you can also extend your I-20. So we'll be trying to issue them to make sure you have plenty of time up front, but we can always change that later once you're here as well.
And Becky, one question as kind of a follow-up to that. When a student defers, you guys are canceling any I-20 that they may have received for fall 2020, correct?
So we don't cancel it exactly because it's still going to be the same CVIS record. It's still going to be the same CVIS ID. So that I-20 will no longer be valid because it will have an old start date on it, but it's not canceled. You'll just get a new I-20 that will have new dates on it, but for the same CVIS record.
Excellent, okay. So I know all of the panelists who have participated today have shared their contact information via the chat. Again, we're gonna be sending you a follow-up email after this as well, where you'll be getting information from me, and we are hoping to send a recording of the session out sometime next week. And again, if the Q&A also was recorded, we will share that just so you have access to all of those answers. I do want to thank everybody for participating today. We had a lot of really good questions and engagement from the students, but I also especially want to thank our faculty and staff panelists, especially for going over time. We really appreciate your willingness to make this time and answer students' questions. Do any of you have any final words before we close out?
I'd just say, if the questions didn't get answered, please contact us. I think that goes for all the departments.
Yes, and also ISSS. I know there's a lot of information sometimes that can be very student specific, so please do contact us. And we will make sure that we're able to get you all the answers that you need. Anybody else have anything they want to add before we end? Okay. All right. Again, thank you guys so much for your, thank you very much. We're glad that you guys enjoyed the session. Thank you all very much for your participation. Have a wonderful rest of your day or the evening ahead of you for those of you who, for whom it's night. Thank you for taking the time to participate in this, and we look forward to talking to you soon.